everybody. It's good to see you guys. Long time no see. Actually, that's not true. We were just here a couple weeks ago.
Hey, everybody. Welcome. Give me just a second here. I'm making sure that I have all of the comments where I can see them.
Take your time. We need to give folks a chance to trickle in anyway.
I know. I kind of feel like today is like a little bit of a relaxed day.
Yes. Yes.
But I'm excited. I love these discussions.
Oh, me too. Not me yawning on camera all like.
It be like that. It be like that sometimes.
Sometimes it be like that.
Mm-hmm. Where y'all at though? Okay, here they go. They're trickling in.
Okay. And I will share the link in our Discord. If you guys are not already on our Discord, I don't know what you're doing. So you definitely want to check out the information in the comments so that way you can become a part of it.
Yes. Hey, y'all. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We'll get started here in a few minutes, just giving everybody some time to get in. Hey, I just want to say hey to my Facebook group, The Crossroads. I know y'all haven't seen me in here going live before, so welcome everybody. If you are just trickling in, go ahead and subscribe to Conjure Corner on YouTube, which is my YouTube channel, and then Soleil's YouTube channel as well, which is Soleil Spirit Work. We're going to be doing these quite often. Like I said before, it's kind of hard to commit to doing it every week, but y'all will definitely see us in here a few times a month doing Tarot Tuesday.
So the ladies in my charm school yesterday did a reading on Jeffrey Dahmer.
Really?
Yes, because everybody's not up in arms, but with that docuseries coming out, it's on everybody's, mind right now.
Yeah. I actually started watching it last night, and I'm like an episode and a half in, and by the end of the first episode, I was like staring at the TV like
it is frightening. It's frightening.
Yes. And you would be surprised like how many times, well, I don't know his particular story, but you would be surprised like how many times back then people could get away with stuff before the police actually did anything.
Girl, when they were trying to go into his apartment, he was like, "You don't want to come in here, there's gay stuff." I was like, wait, did that really work? Did that really work in the 80s and 90s?
Girl, okay. I was
you just gotta say, don't search my apartment, there's gay stuff. Like, you get away with you get away with literal murder.
Right. I would be like, hey, call back up. This is hella suspicious. Yeah, and then there was like a point where they basically allowed him to take a young man into his house just because he said it was his boyfriend.
And that baby looked like a baby too.
He did. I was just like, all right. Have you ever have you seen Missing in Plain Abducted in Plain Sight?
Yes, I have.
Mm-hmm. It's given very much those vibes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the girls did a good job, and they pointed out, I'm not going to say too much, but they pointed out some stuff that's really, his family has issues. I'll just say that. His family had issues.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. But anyways, y'all. Anyways, thank you all for joining. Soleil, do you want to kick it off and just talk a little bit about what you have going on right now before we get started?
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Hounsi Soleil. I'm one of the priestesses over at both Black Spectrum Network and the Voodoo Institute. I was just talking about my charm school mentorship. So that is a mentorship that I have. It's kind of like a boot camp for priestesses. as of this Friday, it will be my only mentorship until me and LaBelle Venus take up the Divine Feminine again. And we're looking to relaunch that at the end of October. So if any of you are interested in either being in my Charm School Priestess Bootcamp or our Divine Feminine mentorship, definitely keep in touch with us. Follow us on social media so that way you can get those updates when everything is coming along. Yeah, that's pretty much all that's going on with me. Just teaching my life away, as always. But we're here today for Tuesday Tarot. And this is a segment that we started last month, right? And what we do is we come here on Tuesdays, of course, and then we just kind of do a deep dive on a different card. We try to make sure it's a card that matches the tone and the energy of what we're going through at the current moment. But it's a lesson just for you guys to get a little bit more information about the tarot. Think about ways to apply it to your everyday life. Think of like pop cultural references, et cetera, et cetera. I love these conversations. I think that they're really dope. And I hope that you guys enjoy them as well. Anything you want to say, Venus?
Hey, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Hounsi LaBelle Venus, and I am one of the priestesses over at the Voodoo Institute as well. I am your local cosmetic conjurer. Okay, so that means that I make, hold on. Let me turn my volume off, y'all. Okay, so that means that, I make magical cosmetics or magical makeup, practical items that you can wear, but also have their spiritual and medicinal purposes. I'm also this is new news, this is new tea, but Hounsi Soleil knows, but I am also pastor and founder of the Church of Hoodoo, which you all will be seeing more information about that coming out here pretty soon. So I'm really excited about that. As for me, same thing as Hounsi Soleil, just teaching. I have the Divine Feminine mentorship with her that we do have coming out again in late October. But then also we have, I have the Conjure mentorship coming up. I'll be taking, technically you can join the group now to start getting information, but my mentorship is going to start again on November the 14th. And I start recruitment for that again on October the 1st. So if you're interested in coming and working with me and learning more about conjure, root work, hoodoo, all of that, definitely want to see you all in the conjure mentorship. So, since we're primarily on Facebook today, you'll see the links circulating again soon. So yeah, both of us have things going on. So come see us.
Mm-hmm. So last time we gathered, we talked about the High Priestess. We went into her in detail. We talked about some of the women that represent High Priestess energy in the pop cultural sphere. This week, I thought it was important for us to talk about a card that, because there's 6 planets in retrograde right now, okay? So everybody's going through a lot of stuff. One of those retrograde, we already know about Mercury retrograde, but one of those other retrogrades is Saturn retrograde, which is going to go until October 23rd, right? So a lot is happening in our lives. And so we wanted to talk about this guy today. We wanted to talk about the Hangman. And we wanted to talk about what this card means, how we can settle into this energy, even though it may be deeply uncomfortable for a lot of us, and what comes on the other side of the lessons of this card. So, Venus, you want to take a few minutes and give your perspective?
Yeah. I could start off. I'm one of those people who really like the traditional version or depiction of this card. But for those of you who know me, is that I really enjoy art, and I really enjoy being able to pull more from the art and the numbers and the symbolisms and things like that you may see in the tarot system to get even more of a more detailed message. But okay, I'm trying to think, like, do I want to start with a different, let's start with the basics, okay? Because I already saw that you had your version of the Hangman, and I really like this one, if you all could see it, because last week I was struggling, y'all. But this is one of my favorite depictions of the Hanged Man. And the Hanged Man in the tarot system is literally all about gaining a different perspective. Some of it, some people may describe it as going with the flow, or just being in a state of true surrender. You know, I feel like when you see this card, it can sometimes be an indication that there needs to be a certain level of clarity that is gained. Sometimes, in which I think we'll probably highlight this a little bit later, but sometimes in different depictions of this card, you can even see the crown highlighted. Or if you can see this right here, you can see the crown or the head of the person highlighted, which, you know, can sometimes mean that, you know, this is a period or a space where we can really gain a bird's eye view or get clarity over a situation. But it comes with ease, a little bit of ease. And I'm going to roll my eyes because Soleil knows why I'm rolling my eyes, baby. Okay. But with this card comes a certain energy of surrender sometimes. And I think that surrender has literally been in the air for the past couple of weeks or the past couple of months, just surrendering to what spirit has for you. You know what I'm saying? Just surrendering and going with the actual flow of things. So there's a lot. There's actually a lot that you can get from this card, but I'll go ahead and let you chime in and we can just kind of go from there.
Yeah, this is a card that has multiple meanings, right? And there's a lot of depth in this card. Even though the most traditional version, the artwork is super simplistic, there's still a ton of meaning in it. It is a card about sacrifice. And regardless of how you read the card, when it comes up, you're called to reflect on your relationship to self-sacrifice, right? There are times in our lives where we are called to sacrifice things that hold great value to us, such as our comfort, right? Such as certain relationships. We're being called to sacrifice them so that we can literally surrender to our circumstances and, you know, see things differently, get different results. But sometimes, especially for us that live this particular walk, if you are a practitioner or if you are a training priest or priestess, this is a card that comes up that's asking you to think about your relationship to sacrifice and whether or not you're putting yourself in a position of playing the martyr, right? Yes, there are some times where we have to sacrifice for the greater good, but sometimes we are sacrificing to appease others. Sometimes we're sacrificing in order to be seen as the good guy, right? So it's sacrifice in the name of feeding ego. You really, really want to be careful not to do that, because when you do that, rather than having this moment of enlightenment, right? I have the same deck, so I'm gonna show mine too, right? You see again the crown being illuminated, right? The sacrifice, the healthy sacrifice coming as a result of a hangman moment is supposed to shift your perspective, is supposed to give you new insights, is supposed to turn your world upside down so that you have new clarity and new information. But when we're engaged in improper sacrifice that's rooted in the ego or also rooted in guilt, because sometimes we can be sacrificial because we feel guilty about what we have, right? And we think that if we're sacrificing that's going to appease others. No, it's not. It only brings drama into your life. It only brings upheaval into your life. So making sure that you're making sacrifices for the right reasons is also a huge element of this card, right? Is this sacrifice that's going to bring you closer to people, or is it going to bring you a state of dependence where you're dependent on the opinions of others, right? That's something to really, really think about it and consider when this card comes up.
I would have to agree. And I think that Hounsi Soleil brought up something very important. Because if you caught the previous series or the last class that we did, when we talked about, you know, what to look for, you know, when reading this card or reading a particular card, one thing that is highlighted here is the element of water, right? Are you acting blindly out of emotion? Are you thinking with a clear head? There's also, you know, kind of a story about the hangman, you know, how he's hanging there in suspension. And you'll see that in different depictions, right? Let me just use this card as example, since, you know, we got the same deck, girl. But as you can see right here, like she's very much at a place in this particular card of relaxation, right?
Mhm.
She knows that if she exhausts a lot of energy, a lot of movement, then it's going to make things a lot harder for her.
Mhm.
So this is one of the reasons why I actually like this particular depiction of the card, is because she's more relaxed. She's more going with the flow. Um, and like I said, and oh, is that water? I think that actually may be water. Well, I'm interpreting it as water, but in some of these cards, you know, like you'll be able to pick up on the water energy, and we know that the water is associated with the emotions, right?
Mhm.
The water is so associated with your intuition. The water is associated with depth, right? So this is very much a card for you to ask yourself, you know, am I, like Soleil said, acting out of ego, or am I acting out of emotion? Is my head clear?
Mhm.
And you'll also see in the typical depiction of the card, you'll see the crossroads, right?
Yes.
Sometimes I feel like the hangman can be at a crossroads. Sometimes this can mean, you know, you needing to find out what works for you, and it's important that you come into a space of suspension to be able to do that.
Mhm. Absolutely. So you mentioned the elemental association of the card, which is water, right? So it is about emotions and navigating that. I want to bring in the astrological association. This card is linked to the energy of Neptune, right? So when we think about Neptune, Neptune being the planet of mystery and illusion, Neptune being the planet of psychic power and imagination, it's also the place of hidden memory, intuition, and clairvoyance, right?
Yeah.
Neptune has a lot to do with spiritual energy. So when we talk about the spiritual act of surrender, um, it is spiritual. It is. And I think that's sometimes why people struggle with it so much, right? I mentioned the retrogrades earlier. All you can really do is surrender to a retrograde energy, right? We know that the more you try to fight it, the more you try to avoid the lessons, the more you try to exert your will over something that powerful, the more dire the circumstances, the consequences are, right? So again, thinking about the fact that this is a Neptune card, how does it bring you closer to trusting spirit, right? How can you claim that you want certain things, you want enlightenment, but not have a willingness to submit or surrender to God, submit to the spirits that walk with you, right? This is something that you really should consider when this card comes up. That's why I mentioned ego earlier, right? Typically, when you're experiencing a hangman moment, there's no time for your ego. And the
Mm-hmm.
more that you try to create time for your ego within that experience, the more you stagnate and prolong your development. You stagnate and prolong your mental and spiritual shift. But you also put yourself in a position where you just bring a whole lot of unnecessary drama into your life, right?
Yeah, I would have to agree. I love how you just ended on unnecessary drama, because I feel like this card kind of captures that. This is from this is from my Santa Muerte deck, and
Mm.
girl, I love that deck. It's so nice. But this is from my Santa Muerte deck, and this is a very unique take on it, right? So if we're looking at the things that are here, piggybacking off of what Hounsi Soleil said, you can see that there's even a disconnect right here. This person has literally struggled so much in that hangman position, if you want to interpret it that way, that they have literally disconnected their self from their head, from their higher self, from their ability to see clearly, right? And you see him gripping on, right? This isn't that relaxed version, right? This isn't that super relaxed version of the hangman that we've displayed, right? This is somebody who kind of has, in a sense, just particularly looking at the art, has, you know, resisted a little bit, right? And now they're in that space of true reflection, right? They're trying to now get a bird's eye view. This, in a sense, especially with the rain and the storm in the background, this particular depiction of the card tells a little bit more of a story. Like, are you resisting change? Are you resisting or fighting against what spirit is trying to reveal to you in a sense.
Mhm.
Sometimes, sometimes on our journey, right? Because this is also an association of the hangman, we can be self-deceptive. We can be a little bit self-deceptive, okay? We can be a little bit in denial about what is actually happening. And the hangman challenges us to refocus on what is really real. Can we see past the water, right?
Mhm.
Someone asked what deck is showing. If you're asking about the one that I was showing, this is the Santa Muerte deck. A beautiful deck that, like I said, it does tell a different story, as you can see, but it's all still in alignment with, with the hangman and its association. One thing, and I'll start on, and I'll let Hounsi Soleil elaborate as she pleases, but one thing that I can also say is that, this card has a message of divine timing to me. Like, it has a message of the crossroads in it, right? Because this card, when you look at it, the numerical association is the 1 and the 2. Okay, the 1 and the 2 equals 3. So it has like an energy of creativity, right? A creative energy that can come from time and suspension, right? Or you can look at it as 2 and 1, which is equivalent to the world card. In the tarot system, which is all about divine timing, right? And as I said, it has the energy in the sense of the crossroads, right? You see in multiple depictions the 4 directions being brought to light. And that, yeah, so that's what I have to say about it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I'm gonna share. This is like a somewhat of a kooky example of the hangman, but I really like this one. It's from my '90s deck. So you have Jim Carrey as the Grinch. And when I first saw this, I was like, well, what the hell? But it actually works, right? Because
Yeah.
he had a realization that allowed him to understand that his ego, his wants, his needs, the things that would bring him joy, bring him his jollies, were actually hurting the collective, right? And that there's more joy in having collective celebration, right? Or what sociologists call collective effervescence, than it is in being removed and like finding joy in others' discomfort, right? So this, I felt like once I reflected on it, this actually is a really good representation of the energy of the hangman, right? Because getting to a point where you can be comfortable with understanding that your sacrifice may benefit the collective, but it may go unseen, right? A lot of times on our spiritual journey, we go through changes and we think, oh, life is going to happen in a very specific way. I'm going to get accolades for these changes. No, the fuck you're not. And that's not always the point. The point is about making things better for the collective. And sometimes the easiest way we can make things better for the collective is through our internal shifts, right? But also, as a priest or a priestess, a lot of times there are things that you sacrifice, some emotional load sharing, if you will, that you do with clients or people in the community that people don't see at all. Love Goddess was just talking about this last week at the retreat. There's so much that goes into this work that people don't see. There's so many sacrifices that we make that people don't recognize. And of course, we keep doing it, not because we hope someday people will see it. No, we do it because it's not about us, right? When we make these commitments to spirit, it stops being about you and it starts being about the collective. It starts being about the contribution that you can bring to the world, to the community, to others. And also, as a child of Vodou, how are you, serve Loa before anything? How are you serving the Loa, right? So that's another part of the reason why this can be such an uncomfortable card for people. Getting a card that's telling you that you're going to have to make a big sacrifice or go through some sort of emotional trial, and nobody's going to be there to witness it. Like nobody's going to be there to gas you up, right? That can be a lot for people to take, but the reward of that so far outweighs the opinions of men, the accolades of men, the attention of men, right?
First of all, You better preach. You better preach. That was like a whole word. Like that was a whole word. I don't know if y'all peeped that or not, but definitely give Hounsi Soleil her flowers because that was a beautiful, beautiful interpretation of the card. And it prompted me to and I'm sorry, you guys, y'all know we have a lot of tarot decks, okay?
Yes, we
But
do.
we have a lot. Okay, we can go on
I'm
and
dealing
on.
with choice paralysis, trying to figure out the next one.
Right? I was like, hold on, do I need to go get one of these other decks? But um so this is a very interesting card. Now this is from the Afro Avatar deck. I really love this deck. As you can see, it's tattered and torn. Okay, this is one of my favorite decks. But if you look at the Hangman right here, I think at first glance when looking at the artwork on this particular card, you could be a little bit startled, like, oh my God, like why is he in a coffin, right? But this particular depiction also talks about there being a certain death of self. Sometimes if that is a death of ego that is required for the greater good, like Hounsi Soleil said. One thing that I also like about this one is he's depicted in seclusion. He is literally wrapped up in that coffin, but with only his head out, right? And if you look at the card, he's like at a high level of altitude as well, right? So this is where that bird's eye view comes in. This is where seeing the larger picture comes in, because sometimes you can't see what is going on if you're just right up in it, right? Sometimes you have to remove yourself and go into suspension, and go to these heights so that you can get a bird's eye view and get a clear vision or idea of like what's actually going on. I think that this is a message of also taking a step back and seeing things from that different perspective, right? I really like in this particular card how like he's out in nature. And it also brings in the need to ground, because you know that this card is, like we said, associated with the water element. The brown in this could suggest also there needing to be a physical grounding as well as a spiritual one too.
Absolutely. So we've been on here for a while now. I want to talk about some examples from popular culture or some examples from the news. And I'm going to use one to talk about a debilitation or a reversal of this energy, just because it's happened within the last week. And I know y'all niggas is gossiping about it. But so one of the alternate names of the Hangman card is the traitor, right? It's actually one of the archetypes, right? So we're familiar with the Hangman card archetype being Jesus or Buddha or the lamb, again, lamb being about sacrifice. But one of the other archetypes is the traitor, right? And that represents the debilitation of it, in which you are fighting, an ego death. You're pushing off an ego-based humbling and the kind of destruction and drama that comes along with that, right? So my example of that I'm going to use today are Nia and Ime, right? We all know about what happened with Nia Long, it coming out that Nia Long's longtime partner recently cheated on her, right? And you may be thinking, okay, well, what does that have to do with the Hangman? Ime knew that this news was coming out months ago. Ime knew that he was going to be suspended and deal with these consequences months ago. He chose, due to his ego, to not surrender to the circumstances and prepare properly. He instead continued to gaslight and move his partner into a new state to be with him, right? And now we see the fallout of that decision, right? It's now gone public. His reputation is being slaughtered. Nia is catching all kind of strays around her desirability and what kind of woman she is. People are attacking her in terms of like, well, why didn't you see this? Which is, I always say when people do that, when somebody gets cheated on, it's not healthy to go around expecting to be cheated on. So it's not her fault that she didn't see this, right? But again, the catastrophe and the drama that comes from not surrendering to your circumstances, to running from your consequences, running from your enlightenment and your awakening, right? I feel like they are a really interesting example of what happens when you don't submit and you don't surrender to circumstances and learn from them when you have the proper opportunity to do so.
I love that. I love that as well. Like for me, when I look at the tarot cards, like I look at the people in my life. So I'm going to try not to get on here and tell all of my family members' businesses and stuff. Okay, just in case they're watching, but I always apply them to like, more personal situations or real life situations where it's like, especially being on the outside in, you can literally, I'll see someone, what is it that the old folks say? Is it fighting against the grain? Or going against the current?
Going against the grain.
Going against the grain, yes. So I think that, like, for me, I'll see that in my loved ones' lives and stuff. And, I'll see them just fighting against it. I know a lot of you all will hear me say this quite frequently, is that, I love to quote Ayama. But, sometimes life don't have to be hard. We just make it hard. We make it hard. Instead of accepting the reality. A word that I just heard just now was serenity. I always butcher the serenity prayer, but if you want to, feel free to Google it, right? And I feel like the serenity prayer is also an embodiment of this card, accepting what we cannot change, right? And having the courage to, I don't know, take care of what we can. I don't know. Like I said, I'm just gonna butcher the
girl. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Like I said, please feel free to Google it. Okay. No, but thank you for that. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. But yeah, that's the prayer, the serenity prayer. And I feel like this card embodies that. And like sometimes, like I said, I will see people or even clients, just fighting against the grain. But sometimes when that happens, spirit literally brings you to a point where you have to become the hangman, right? Where you have to accept. Like I said, this card has that energy of divine timing. With the example that Hounsi Soleil gave with Nia and her man, I mean, it was gonna come. It was gonna happen anyways, right? So I think that's really important. Something else that I will say is like, this kind of reminds me of like a Disney movie. It reminds me of like a Disney movie in a sense where, kind of like in The Lion King, where he's like on his journey to finding self. And for a while you see him fight and go through his ups and downs, but then he comes to a point of surrender and sacrifice for the greater good. And that's when he can truly step into his self,
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned Disney movies because one of my representations is Snow White.
Oh my God, Soleil, we are twins today, girl.
And then I just want to share one more just because it's so shady. This is from the Golden Girls deck. Girl, do you see that they took its toupee off to represent information coming into the crown? How rude is that?
That's hella rude. I have that deck too, but I've never noticed it. Not the toupee.
Toupee is really just like open. Yeah. I want to share one more pop cultural example just because I think it's a good one. And we're seeing this person. You may or may not know who this guy is, but I feel like if you're paying attention to his story, you're witnessing his hangman moment in real time. But the actor Shia LaBeouf was a wild boy. He was out here disrespecting people and like having some really abusive, toxic relationships, right? He was an emotional abuser, and some even accused him of being a physical abuser. And unfortunately, when it comes to famous men who abuse, we have not seen a whole lot of them taking accountability for their actions. What do? They deny, they deflect, they slander, right? Shia LaBeouf, who recently has found Christianity, well, you can say what you want to about that, but I'm not going to judge. Whatever, people go through their spiritual awakenings in the form that they need to, but has recently found Christianity, is rethinking his role as a father, and has taken a lot of public responsibility for the abuse he put on FKA Twigs amongst other people, right? So he's written several letters where he's taken open responsibility for what he's done. He's stood up in the face of reporters and admitted and, kind of reconciled for his sins. But that shift in perspective as a result of spiritual awakening, right, is something that really needs to be considered. And he's moving differently as a result of it, right? Now, we could say he's probably just doing it for his career. He might be. We don't know. But what he has expressed is that he wants to make amends on a collective level. And I'm going to believe him because he's saying that, and that's part of the card, right? He's saying, like, I want to make amends on a collective level. I have to rectify or take ownership of what I've done and what that means culturally. I am a father of a daughter, and I have to think about these things, right? And to me, that represents a hangman moment because he could have easily kept being in his traitor spirit, in denial about the weight of his actions. But now, after certain revelations, he's now moving forward and moving differently and making commitments to the collective, to the public. So I see Venus making a face.
No, I'm honestly, like, I'm just thinking, like, I was like, first of all, I haven't heard about this story. Okay. I haven't heard, but I'm like, as you're talking, I'm like, oh, that's good. Yes, that is a good example. But then for some reason, I thought about Kevin Gates, and I'm like, that's not a good example. In a way, it is. He appears to, becoming forthright and saying that he's having a hangman moment. Now, do I know if his actions, with the responsibility that he holds as a family man or in the culture, do I know if his actions are reflecting what he's saying that he's doing? I don't know. But he very much, says that he's in the hangman. I'm being reflective. I'm elevating spiritually. But, okay, I'm going to be judgy. I don't buy it.
It's okay.
I don't believe him.
Yeah. And Shia may be lying too, but I just know that in comparison to like a Chris Brown or a Marilyn Manson, these other men who have had histories of abuse come out, they have not had a hangman moment. They have openly denied and let ego be something that is driven the way that they talked about it, right? It appears that he has had a change and that he has had enlightenment. So until I see him do something that doesn't represent it, I'm choosing to believe it. I also want to see this Black girl get her money. Maybe that's fucked up of me, but I hope that FKA Twigs is successful in this lawsuit. We haven't seen a whole lot of public civil suits with people, literally suing their abusers. And I think that this is something that's gonna, change the tide in terms of how women can protect themselves when the law or when their community fails them. So
yeah. Also, one last thing that I'd like to add, because you made me think about something. When I also believe that like Trey Songz hasn't had that hangman moment yet. He's one of those.
Have a vicious tower.
yeah, because he's like in that category. Like you're always hearing about him being involved in some aspects of misconduct or sexual abuse or sexual aggression, but then they disappear, right? The case is some, you know what I'm saying? So, and he never is forthright. You know what I'm saying? Or I have not at least experienced him come forward and, take accountability, et cetera, et cetera. Even with the Keke Palmer situation,
I was just thinking about Keke.
Yeah, even with her, situation a couple of years ago, he even spoke out in, reference to like, oh, she tripping, kind of brushed it off under the rug a little bit. So, I think that Trey Songz is someone who hasn't quite yet had that moment yet.
Very much stuck in his ego, very much stuck in self-preservation. Very much dedicated to continuing to do damage because of his ego. Absolutely. So it'll be interesting to see. I feel like we are stepping into a bit of a sea change, and I hope that more people are willing to take that on. Definitely.
I agree.
We've been on for about 40 minutes now. Is there anything else you want to say about the card or about what's coming next before we wrap up?
Well, I guess I can, kind of recap what we have going on. I think we've pretty much explained the hangman. I hope that was insightful. I hope that you guys walk away from these, mini series with a nugget, with some form of a nugget or piece of information that, you use or that can help you on your journey. If there is a tarot card or something that you would like for us to talk about, please drop it below in the comments, because we're always looking for more content or things that you all are interested in. So please share. As for me, once again, I'm Hounsi LaBelle Venus. For those of you who don't know me, I am also Queen Leilani. I know a lot of people think that we're two different people, but I'm Hounsi LaBelle Venus, also known as Queen Leilani Kayan, okay? Um, Once again, I'm also one of the priestesses over at the Voodoo Institute. I have the Divine Feminine Mentorship coming up with Hounsi Soleil starting in late October. And then my personal Conjure Mentorship will be starting on November the 14th. So for those of you who are interested, get in the group. There's a lot of information. Okay, so be ready to work. This program is definitely the real deal. You'll definitely walk away being more, not only more of a magician, but more in tune with yourself spiritually, more connected to the ancestors. We're really going to take a deep dive into, of course, our history of the graveyard. For many of you who don't know me, I am also initiated into Haitian Vodou, so we'll be talking a little bit about the Loa spirits, who walk with me or who I work with, right? So it's just going to be a lot of information. I also have a class coming up a little bit later in October. It's called Vixen, and we're going to be crafting a magical body oil. So the information about that will be coming out pretty soon. But of course, if you need me, you always know where to find me at the Conjure Corner and also at the Voodoo Institute as well.
Absolutely. And you can find me at blackspectrumnetwork.com/Soleil. You can find me at voodooinstitute.com/Soleil. You can also find me at my personal website, www.soleil.conjureshop.com. I'm actually starting tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'm going to be doing a 3-day flash sale on my personal website. So if you wanted to get a reading with me and you have been saving your money patiently, now's a good time to go ahead and book or purchase a gift certificate. I also offer life coaching services. So if you wanted to work with a life coach that is spiritually inclined, I am a spiritual life coach. So if you have certain things going on in your life that you need to make breakthrough with, goals that you want to achieve, and you want somebody to work with you around it, definitely check out my services at soleilconjureshop.com. I am teaching Charm School mentorship, but that is closed until February. So I'm sorry. No new students until February. My traditional mentorship is on pause right now. It likely won't start back up until November just because I'm revamping and restructuring that. And I'm also not teaching any standalone classes until November. But if you miss me, head on over to blackspectrumnetwork.com/Soleil or soleilconjureshop.com, and you can purchase some of my previous courses. And if you're interested in future mentorship, follow me on Instagram at Hounsi Soleil so that once those general mentorships are reopened, you'll know of the dates and you can sign up and learn under me. Why do we talk about mentorship so much? A lot of you motherfuckers are out here ruining your lives with Pinterest spells, with piss jars and freezer things and all kind of weird shit. So it is important to learn under a skilled priest or priestess how to actually do ancestral worship, how to actually engage in magic, how to actually commune and converse with spirits, so you're not out here talking to demons. You know what I mean? You're not. It's important to have education, right? Please know that we offer this not for ourselves, but to make sure that we are giving people support so that they don't bring extra spiritual drama into their life. Life is hard enough, right? So that's why we preach mentorship so much. And also, we were mentored. So if you watch our readings and you think we're dope, please understand that, yeah, we were naturally dope before we got mentorship, but mentorship is what sharpened us. So, yeah, I just want to say that because I have had people be like, oh, well, do you do this to get people into? No, I will teach just as hard when I have 2 students as I do when I have 20.
Absolutely.
It's not about the numbers. We don't do this for the numbers. We do this because we know when y'all, I'm not gonna call y'all bitches, but lovingly, when y'all heifers get out here and play priestess with the shit that you found off of Pinterest, we know the weight and the damage it causes, not only in your personal life, but in people's bloodlines, and it ricochets throughout community. We literally just gave you a full lesson about a card that talks about sacrifice and the greater good of community. So the least you guys can do is get proper education so that you're not hurting yourselves and your community. And on that note, thank you all
Period.
for having joined us tonight. If you enjoyed what you saw, please be generous and share a love offering. Again, this was a free class. We don't do it for, the money, but it's a good way to show us that you were paying attention. So go ahead and be generous if you have it. Follow us on our social media. You can find me at Hounsi Soleil, HOUNSISOLE. And you can find Hounsi LaBelle Venus you see her name written down there. I'm not going to throw the whole thing out. But find us on Instagram, find us on Facebook. That's the easiest way to figure out when we're doing something new and when we're offering classes. So until our next Tuesday Tarot, y'all take care.